I rubbed my aching neck and stood up from my cubicle. It was 9 o'clock at night, and I was working overtime again. The office building was nearly empty, with only a few scattered lights flickering in the gloom. My footsteps echoed through the long, quiet corridor as I headed for the exit. I pulled out my phone to check the time. Suddenly, the screen went black. A new interface popped up against a pitch-black background. A golden roulette wheel started spinning slowly, its edges glowing with an eerie, fluorescent light. For words were written in the center, Destiny Lucky Draw. What the hell was this? I frowned, thinking it was just some annoying pop-up ad. I reached for the X in the top right corner to close it. The moment my fingertip touched the screen, the wheel erupted in a blinding white light. Everything went dark. It was a strange sensation, like being violently yanked into another dimension. My body felt weightless, but my mind was racing at 1,000 miles an hour. When I finally opened my eyes, I was still standing in the same spot, but my palm felt warm. I was holding a card. It was golden, covered in dense, intricate runes that seemed to pulse with heat. In the center, it read, Advanced Provision Talisman. I turned the card over and over, my skin crawling. This wasn't something from a phone app. I could feel the texture of the paper and the warmth radiating from it. It was terrifyingly real. I thought back to the roulette wheel. A ridiculous thought entered my mind. Was that actually real? I looked at my phone. The black interface was gone. Everything looked normal, as if nothing had happened. I gripped the card tight and hurried downstairs. The moment I reached the lobby, my phone vibrated violently. I looked down. A line of blood-red text jumped onto the screen. Warning, in 3 seconds, you will die in a truck collision. My pupils shrank. A countdown had already started. 2, 1. I snapped my head up. Outside the glass doors, an out-of-control truck was roaring onto the sidewalk. It was heading straight for me. The tires shrieked against the pavement. The headlights were so bright I couldn't see. I didn't have time to move. Suddenly, the golden card in my hand turned scalding hot. A surge of power flowed from my palm into my body. My legs moved on their own, lunging to the left. I stumbled and crashed into a nearby planter. A massive roar filled my ears. The truck grazed my clothes as it barreled past, smashing into the glass doors where I had been standing a second ago. The reinforced glass shattered instantly. Shards flew everywhere. The metal frame twisted like paper. I lay on the ground, drenched in cold sweat. I looked across the street and saw my colleague, Li Jianfeng. He was holding 2 cups of milk tea, staring at the wreck in shock. Old Zeng, are you okay? He shouted. You almost got hit. I tried to speak, but my throat felt like it was blocked. Then I saw it. A vision appeared in my mind. Behind Li Jianfeng, an SUV was swerving and accelerating. The driver was distracted by the crash and didn't see the man in the road. Watch out, I screamed. It was too late. The SUV hit him. I watched as Li Jianfeng was tossed into the air like a broken kite. The milk tea flew out of his hands, splashing across the asphalt in a white blur. Screams erupted from the sidewalk. I sat there by the planter, numb, watching him lie in a pool of blood. My phone vibrated again. Target, Li Jianfeng. Death compensation, provision talisman activated. No lifespan consumed from host. A new message appeared. Every draw from Destiny comes with a price. My fingers shook. It wasn't an ad. It wasn't a hallucination. The system was real. That golden card had saved my life, but the price of my survival was Li Jianfeng's life. I stared at the screen, a chilling thought taking hold. If I hadn't used that talisman, I would be the one dead. The system had calculated everything. It knew where I'd be standing. It knew the truck's path. It used that charm to push me out of the way, and in doing so, it pushed Li Jianfeng into the line of death. This was the price. I gripped my phone until my knuckles turned white. People were crowding around, calling ambulances, taking pictures for social media. I forced myself to stand up, my legs still trembling. I looked at Li Jianfeng. He was gone. No one could survive an impact like that. My phone vibrated a 3rd time. Congratulations on completing your first draw. Destiny points plus 100. Next draw countdown. 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 59 seconds. Note, the more you draw, the higher the price. I stared at that countdown. Once every 24 hours. The price would only get heavier. Li Jianfeng was just the first. If I stopped drawing, would something even worse happen to me? If I kept going, who would be the next to die in my place? Someone I knew? A total stranger? I looked up at the night sky through the shattered glass. The city lights were flickering, and cars were moving as usual. Everything looked normal, but I knew the world had changed. A set of rules I didn't understand had begun to turn. The screen lit up again. Start next draw? Yes/no. The countdown kept ticking, hitting my heart like a hammer. I knew I shouldn't touch it. But my hand moved on its own, reaching for the screen. I ended up back at work the next night. Manager Wang was at his desk, his oily face illuminated by the harsh white glow of the fluorescent lights. I had stayed until 10. As I passed the finance office, I heard a rustling sound. I stopped. I peeked through the crack in the door. Manager Wang was frantically stuffing ledgers into a briefcase. He looked panicked. He was stealing the books. My nerves tightened. The company had been investigating a mysterious flow of funds lately. The board had offered a 200,000 yuan reward for leads. Manager Wang had always been the most trusted veteran. Nobody suspected him. I pulled out my phone to record him, but my hand bumped the doorframe. "Who's there?" Wang snapped, spinning around. His panic turned into a murderous glare when he saw me. "Xiaozeng, why are you still here?" "Manager Wang, just working late," I said, forcing a smile while secretly hitting the record button. He narrowed his eyes, slowly closing his briefcase. "Just checking some accounts." I saw his hand drift toward his desk drawer. He kept a pair of heavy scissors in there. My heart raced. I remembered the strength boost I had gotten from the system. It had 2 hours left before it expired. If I didn't use it now, it would be gone. "Manager Wang, those ledgers." Before I could finish, he lunged at me with the scissors. I didn't expect him to be so desperate. I dodged, but the blade grazed my arm. Pain flared through me. Instinct took over. I swung a punch. The system's power exploded in my fist. I hit him square in the chest. He flew backward, crashing through the office window. He got stuck halfway out, glass raining down like hail. His screams echoed through the floor. "Help! Save me!" I rushed over to grab him. But then I realized my hands were covered in blood. I looked down. I was holding a jagged shard of glass. I didn't even remember picking it up. The sharp edge was buried deep in his stomach. The cold, mechanical voice of the system rang in my head. "Target's vital signs have vanished. Kill count +1. Warning, accumulated kill count will trigger the attention of the arbitrators." Manager Wang's body went limp. The terror in his eyes faded into a hollow, empty stare. Blood welled up from the wound, sliding down the jagged glass shard before dripping onto the floor. Under the harsh office lights, the red stain looked blinding. I stumbled back, my hands shaking uncontrollably. I didn't mean to kill him. Was it the system controlling my body, or did I just lose my mind for a split second? "I didn't want this," I muttered to myself. I looked down at my hands. I was still clutching the glass shard, blood oozing between my fingers. Suddenly, the wail of sirens cut through the night. They were close. Someone had called the police. I heard heavy footsteps running toward the office. A security guard burst through the door and froze. "Zeng, Brother Zeng? What happened?" "He attacked me," I said, forcing my voice to stay level. I pointed at the scissors lying on the floor. "He tried to stab me first. I was just defending myself." The guard looked at the gash on my shoulder, then at the scissors. He nodded slowly. The next few hours felt like a fever dream. The police arrived, took my statement, and collected evidence. The surveillance footage confirmed that Manager Wang had lunged at me first. The conclusion came quickly. It was justifiable self-defense. I wasn't going to jail. By the time I walked out of the police station, it was 3 in the morning. The streets were deserted. The streetlights stretched my shadow across the pavement. I leaned against a cold brick wall, my stomach churning. I bent over and vomited. It wasn't just the fear. It was the new notification from the system. Lottery cooldown, 18 hours remaining. Suggestion, use the lottery as soon as possible to increase strength. The arbitrators have begun tracking your location. Current survival probability, 47%. "What are you talking about?" I whispered, wiping the bile from my lips. "What arbitrators?" The system didn't answer. I opened my personal status window. Next to the kill count section, there was a new line of small text. Kill count 1. Note: every lottery draw obtained at the cost of a human life will be recorded. When the kill count reaches the limit, the arbitrators will descend. Current limit, 5. A limit of 5. I stared at that number, thinking of Li Jianfeng's gruesome death and the look of pure despair in Wang's eyes before he died. I thought this system was a tool to save my life. I was wrong. I was becoming a messenger of death. Every draw was just accelerating my own end. My phone screen glowed. The countdown was still ticking. I had 18 hours. I could choose to stop. I could abandon the system entirely. But the arbitrators already had my location. If I quit, would they just show up at my door? If I continued, I'd hit the limit soon enough. It was a dead end no matter what I chose. I closed my eyes. Faces of people I knew from the office flashed through my mind. The receptionist, the lady from the cafeteria, the guys in the tech department. What if the cost of the next draw was one of them? I could call Li's death an accident. I could call Wang's death self-defense. But what about the third, the fourth, or the fifth? I gripped my phone until my knuckles turned white. Suddenly, the system pinged again. Asterisk detected host's mental instability. System tip: the Destiny lottery does not require killing. The cost is never decided by the host. Destiny has its own arrangements. Asterisk. Those words felt like a knife in my chest. I snapped my eyes open and looked up at the night sky. The city lights were beautiful, but behind those windows, how many people would die tomorrow because of a choice I made? They were completely oblivious, just like I was yesterday before Li Jianfeng died in my place. The screen flickered again. A new draw was ready. Lottery pool updating. Special item featured: Destiny regression charm. Effect: allows the host to transfer the cost to a specific target. My pupils contracted. Cost transfer. That meant I could actually choose who had to die. The light from the phone reflected off my face as my finger hovered over the icon for the Destiny regression charm. Transfer the cost. The words coiled in my brain like a venomous snake. I could pick someone. I could offload the price of my survival onto them. The system had done it for me with Li Jianfeng, but now it was offering me the wheel. Damn it. I cursed under my breath, clicking the screen off. I wasn't just tempted, I was terrified by how much I wanted it. I leaned against the railing of my apartment building's roof, breathing in the freezing air. One thing was certain. The system was baiting me to become a killer. The kill limit and that 47% survival rate were meant to pressure me. Kill or be killed. There was no third option. A black business car pulled up to the entrance of my complex. I glanced at it briefly but didn't think much of it. I turned to head downstairs when my phone vibrated. A message from an unknown number. Asterisk congratulations, Mr. Zheng Mingyuan. You have passed the initial screening. Asterisk. The Tianshu Society invites you to become a peripheral member. Please reply by midnight. A refusal will be treated as a forfeiture of your life. There was no signature and no address, but they knew my name. My hand tightened around the phone. The Tianshu Society. That was the organization the system had mentioned before. How did they know I was a system holder? Was Wang's death a setup? I quickly typed a reply. Who are you? Why should I join? 3 seconds later, the reply popped up. Peripheral members do not need to know the full scope of the organization. You only need to know that if you don't join, you die. You have 4 hours. I stared at the screen and let out a cold laugh. Threats. That was the one thing I had no patience for. I deleted the text and went inside. The lights were still on in the apartment next door. My neighbor, Annie Wong, was hanging laundry on the balcony. She saw me and smiled. Xiaozeng, you're back late. Working overtime again. I nodded. Yeah, you're still up, Auntie. Oh, your Uncle Wong is out playing cards. The kids are asleep, she said, gesturing inside. I have to get them to school early tomorrow, so I'll be heading to bed soon. I forced a smile, said good night, and went into my place. I double-locked the door and checked every window. Once I was sure I was alone, I sat on the sofa. The system panel was still floating in my vision. Kill count: 1. Survival probability: 47%. I closed my eyes, trying to think. If the Tianshu Society knew about me, they were either monitoring the system or they had people in the police force. If it was the former, I was in deep trouble. I wasn't the only one with a system. There were others, maybe many others, and this society was pulling the strings. A knock at the door made me jump. Knock, knock, knock. It was soft and rhythmic. I stood up and crept to the door. I looked through the peephole, but the hallway was empty. I frowned and stepped back. Knock, knock, knock. The sound wasn't coming from the door. It was coming from behind me. The window. I spun around. A hand was pressed against the glass, 5 fingers splayed out, as if someone was clinging to the outside wall of the building. Then a second hand appeared. Finally, a face rose into view. It was pale, expressionless, and staring straight at me through the glass. My heart hammered against my ribs. I couldn't move. The hand shifted, its finger tracing a line on the glass, writing in the condensation. For hours, the countdown begins. Then, the hand vanished. The face disappeared into the dark. It was as if the face had never been there at all. Nothing. The residential complex below was empty, the only sound being the rustle of wind through the leaves. I looked down. Resting on the windowsill was a white envelope. No stamp, no address. Just a gold-stamped wax seal featuring an Ouroboros, a snake devouring its own tail. My breath hitched. I opened it. Inside was a single card. An invitation for an Outer Circle member. ID 0001. Host Manhwa. Status inactive. Blessing. Refusal to activate is considered a forfeit. Forfeiture is death. Gift. Proof of incineration. Asterisk. I flipped the card over. There was a photo of my apartment, taken from the street outside. My window was closed, the lights were on. But that wasn't what chilled me. At the bottom of the photo was a small flame icon with a line of text. Asterisk first gift. Proof of incineration complete. Asterisk. My hands started to shake. I bolted out of my apartment and hammered on the door of my neighbor, Wang Shun. No answer. I pushed the handle. It was unlocked. The door swung open, and a smell of charred meat hit me instantly. Everything in the living room looked perfect. No fire, no smoke. But Wang Shun's family of 4 was lying neatly on the floor. They looked peaceful, as if they were just sleeping. Then I saw it. On their eyes and their clothes, there was a tiny burn mark, no bigger than a cigarette butt. But in those spots, the skin was carbonized, exposing black, charred bone. I stumbled back, hitting the doorframe. For hours. If I didn't join, the next gift would be mine. I pulled out my phone and dialed the unknown number with trembling fingers. A deep male voice answered immediately. A wise choice, Mr. Manhwa. Welcome to the Tianshu Society. By the time I hung up, my fingertips were still vibrating. It wasn't just fear anymore, it was rage. Wang Shun's family was dead just a wall away, and the man on the phone sounded like he was discussing the weather. For hours later, a black business van pulled up at the mouth of the alley. I climbed in. A middle-aged man in a sharp suit and gold-rimmed glasses sat in the back, flipping through a folder. Zheng Manhwa, 26. Administrative clerk at Hanyuan Company. Father deceased. Mother living alone in the countryside. He looked up, his eyes cold as scalpels behind thick lenses. We've checked all your connections. Your primary school desk mate, your college roommates, the nurse at your mother's community clinic. He snapped the folder shut and handed me a photo. It showed a man with a scarred face sitting at a mahjong table, wearing a gold watch and a thick chain. Lu Motzi, the biggest drug dealer in the city. Your first target. I took the photo and said nothing. The requirement is simple, the man said, pushing up his glasses. Use the ability you drew from your system to kill him. No witnesses. No evidence. You have 48 hours. And if I refuse? He smiled. You won't. Your mother's clinic is scheduled for renovations next month. We've already arranged the construction crew. My grip tightened, crumpling the edge of the photo. I took a deep breath and summoned the system interface in my mind. Asterisk Fate Lottery System. 1 basic draw available. Asterisk. I closed my eyes and whispered the command in my head. A flash of light exploded in my vision. Asterisk Congratulations. You have obtained Invisibility, Level 1. Duration, 5 minutes. Cooldown, 24 hours. Asterisk. 5 minutes. 5 minutes to kill a man. It would have to be enough. I looked at the man in the glasses. Give me the address. Lu Motzi's hideout was a derelict building on the east side of the city. I spent 3 hours on a nearby rooftop with binoculars. 12 guards. 2 at the main entrance. On the 4th floor, through a window without curtains, I could see Lu Matsi sitting at a desk counting stacks of cash. At 9 p.m., the guard shifted. The numbers dropped by half. I slipped down from the roof, hugged the perimeter wall, and began climbing a drainage pipe. I reached the 3rd floor, my heart racing as I calculated the timing. I had to kill him the moment I entered the room. I reached the 4th floor ledge and pulled a dagger from my waistband. System, I breathed. Activate invisibility. A wave of cold washed over me. My body turned transparent. Even my breathing felt weightless. I slid the window open and dropped onto the floor without a sound. The desk was empty. My heart skipped a beat. Instinctively, I ducked. A dagger whistled past my ear and thudded into the wall, the handle vibrating. Buddy, invisibility, right? Lu Matsi stepped out from behind the door, twirling a silver pistol. He had a cigar clamped in his teeth and a wide, ugly grin. That's a coincidence. My ability is thermal vision. Your invisibility is useless. My stomach dropped. He was like me, a system holder. The Tianshu Society sent you to kill me? Lu Matsi puffed out a cloud of smoke. They found me too. Told me I had to kill 3 people to join. I picked the 3 easiest targets I could find. He raised the gun, aiming generally toward where I stood. Which number are you? I didn't move. I was counting. 3 minutes left of invisibility. He could see my heat signature, but he didn't have a clear lock yet. He had a gun. A direct charge was suicide. What did they offer you? I asked. My voice came from the left side of the room, but I quietly shifted a step to the right. Lu Matsi took the bait, his gun following the sound. Offer. Staying alive is the only offer. They threatened my wife and kids. Said if I didn't kill 3 people in 3 days, they'd burn them in front of me. A chill ran down my spine. And you did it. A flicker of bitterness crossed his face. What else was I supposed to do? Dealing drugs is a death sentence anyway. If I'm going down, why not take a few others with me? He stepped forward, gun raised. I held my breath. I had circled around to the side of the desk. A lamp sat there, its cord dangling near the floor. I reached down and hooked my finger around the wire. 1.5 minutes left. Buddy, you're being forced to, aren't you? Lu Matsi reached the corner and realized no one was there. He spun around, the gun sweeping the room. We're both pawns. Why make it hard on each other? Let's talk. Talk about what? I said from the opposite direction. As he turned his head, I yanked the cord. The lamp crashed to the floor, the bulb shattering. The room plunged into darkness. Lu Matsi panicked, firing 3 shots into the shadows. Sparks flew as bullets hit the wall. I rolled across the floor, coming up right beneath his feet. My dagger moved in a blur, driving upward into his throat. Fuck! Lu Matsi's eyes bulged. A gurgling sound came from his throat as the cigar fell, scattering sparks on the floor. He clutched his neck, blood pouring through his fingers, before he collapsed with a heavy thud. 45 seconds of invisibility left. I stood over him, watching him twitch, watching his eyes stay wide, even in death. My hand shook so hard I could barely hold the knife. We were the same. Both of us were just tools, threatened and used to kill people we didn't even know. I knelt down and picked up his phone. On the screen was an unsent text message. The recipient of the unsent message was listed simply as wife. I'm not going to make it, the text read. Take our son and run. As far as you can. He had tried to send it, but it failed. The signal was jammed. My fingers shook as I tucked the phone back into Lu Matsi's pocket. I stood up and walked toward the window. My invisibility wore off right then, my body flickering back into existence in the heavy darkness of the room. Outside, the night was a void. My phone rang. It was the man in the gold-rimmed glasses. First target complete, he said, his voice smooth and cold. You have 46 hours left for the other 2. I didn't answer immediately. I stared at the pool of blood spreading across the floor. After a long silence, I finally spoke. Who are the other 2? I'll send the details to your phone when you get back, he replied. He paused for a beat. By the way, just a heads up. Your next target is someone you know. I gripped the phone so hard my knuckles turned white. Someone I knew? Who else in my life was a target for the Tianshu Association? I found myself in a warehouse later, the air thick with a pungent, medicinal stench. I stood in the shadows, watching Lu Matsi. His pupils had turned an eerie, dark green. A neurotic smile played on his lips as he fiddled with a few brightly colored pills. You got that damn thing too, didn't you? Lu Matzi muttered, rolling a pill between his fingers. When the Tianshu people found you, did they use your mother to threaten you? I stayed silent. He let out a sudden, miserable laugh. I have a 7-year-old daughter, he whispered. They told me if I didn't listen, they'd sell her off to the Golden Triangle. What the hell was I supposed to do? So you helped them manufacture drugs? I asked. His eyes turned dangerous. You think I'm just making drugs? I said too. You have a system, right? Then you should know what the system can produce. He slammed the pills onto the floor. Bang! A cloud of green mist exploded, spreading rapidly. I reacted instantly, holding my breath and backing away. But the mist followed me like a shadow, creeping along the walls and through the gaps in the shelves as if it were alive. High concentration of toxic gas detected. Host is being invaded, the system chimed in my head. My skin began to burn. Where the mist touched my hands, red spots flared up. It felt like being splashed with acid. My ability is poison creation, Lu Matzi said. The mist seemed to avoid him naturally. I can make any toxin. That one is just a paralytic. I'll give you 3 seconds to decide. Do I kill you? Or do we team up to take down the Tianshu Association? My face turned purple from holding my breath. My temples throbbed. I glanced at the ventilation ducts, but all the windows were shut tight. I couldn't escape. If I took even one breath, I was dead. Team up, I wheezed through gritted teeth. Lu Matzi's eyes flickered. We both know Tianshu doesn't plan on letting us live. Completing tasks is just buying time. They'll toss us away like used rags. I didn't reply. I was waiting for the system. Host is taking continuous damage, the system alerted. Emergency mechanism triggered. Initiating emergency evolution. Locking onto current needs, toxin neutralization. Evolution direction, detoxification. A progress bar flashed in my vision. 3%, 17%, 43%. Every second felt like an eternity. My vision blurred. The gas was entering my lungs now, and every shallow breath felt like swallowing razor blades. I could feel my organs eroding. A metallic, sweet taste rose in my throat. You look terrible, Lu Matzi said, stepping closer. Looks like you're out of time. Last chance. Do we work together? Why should I trust you? I leaned against a shelf, my voice a raspy whisper. Because I don't want to damn well die, he screamed. My daughter is waiting for me. They promised if I finished 3 more batches, they'd let me go. He stopped mid-sentence. I stood up straight. The sickly green tint on my face was fading, and my breathing leveled out. I held up my hand, watching the red rashes vanish in seconds. Detoxification ability activated. Toxins cleared. Evolution complete. Lu Matzi's pupils shrunk. Your system evolved? Yeah, I said, flexing my fingers. And I just realized something else. What? The abilities of system holders can be devoured. His face went white. He grabbed a handful of pills and tried to shove them into his mouth, but he was too slow. I vanished. A second later, I was behind him, my finger pressed against the back of his head. Target detected, the system prompted. Extract system wreckage? No, please. Lu Matzi shook violently. My daughter is waiting for me. I beg you. My finger hesitated. I could feel his terror. It was the same desperation I felt. The Tianshu Association used the people we loved most to turn us into disposable pawns. Where is your daughter? I asked. At the Qingxi daycare, he sobbed. My wife is dead. She's all I have. I took a deep breath and hit the confirmation button. Extraction in progress. Target deceased. Lu Matzi slumped over, his eyes wide and lifeless. A ball of dark green light emerged from his body and hovered over my palm before merging into me. Obtained ability, Junior Poison Creation. Toxin types, paralysis, corrosion, hallucination. A soft sound came from behind me. I spun around. 5 meters away stood a young girl in a gray hoodie. She was about 7, her hair in a ponytail, holding a plastic bag from Sunshin daycare. She looked at the body on the floor, then up at me. Her lips trembled. Daddy? My heart felt like it had been stabbed with a dull knife. The girl stumbled forward, dropping her bag. A lunchbox fell out, spilling food across the cold floor. Steam rose from the rice. Daddy, she cried, her voice shaking. Why is there so much blood? I couldn't move. My hands were still vibrating from the energy surge of the extraction. She knelt by Lu Matsi and pushed his shoulder. Daddy, wake up. He didn't move. She looked up at me, eyes swimming with tears she refused to let fall. Mister, what happened to my daddy? I opened my mouth, but no words came out. Suddenly, the system's cold voice exploded in my mind. New ability merged. External system fragments detected. Unlocking new modules. Unlock complete. Added function, system inventory. Added function, ability fusion. A light screen appeared before me, showing I could now store items and fuse low-level abilities into stronger ones. But I didn't have time to look. The girl stood up, her gaze fixed on me with a sharp, piercing intensity that didn't belong on a child's face. You killed my daddy, she screamed. The sound was high and jagged, cutting through the silence of the warehouse. I, Zheng Mingyuan, took a half-step back. My hand instinctively dropped to the dagger at my waist. The girl didn't move, though. She just stood there, the tears finally breaking free and splashing one by one onto the concrete floor of the warehouse. Mister, she whispered, you killed my daddy. I felt my throat tighten. My Adam's apple bobbed as I struggled to find a voice. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't even know why I said it. Maybe it was her eyes. They were so bright, yet filled with a level of despair and hatred that no child should ever have to carry. Then, she smiled. It was a bizarre, eerie expression that made my skin crawl. It's okay, she said. Daddy said if he died, it would be my turn. A shock ran through my entire body. What? The girl didn't answer. She turned around and began walking slowly toward the warehouse doors. Her gray hoodie looked like a moving shadow in the dim, flickering light. I wanted to chase after her, but my feet felt like they were rooted to the ground. At the doorway, she stopped and looked back at me one last time. Mister, you smell just like my daddy. With that, she vanished into the night. I stood there, my back drenched in cold sweat. What did that mean? What did Lu Matsi's daughter actually know? I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. Now wasn't the time for riddles. I pulled up my system panel. Host, Zheng Mingyuan. Abilities, detoxification, poison manufacturing. Inventory, empty. Ability fusion, 0 out of 3. Remaining lifespan, 52 years. My pupils shrank. I was barely 30 years old. Normally, I should have had another 40 or 50 years left, so why was it only 52? The system provided the answer immediately. The recent ability extraction had consumed 10 years of my life. A warning flashed. Every time I awakened or fused an ability, the system would automatically deduct a portion of my lifespan as payment. Remaining lifespan, 42 years. My hand froze in midair. 42 years. That's all I had left to live. The price, I muttered to myself. This is the price. Every step toward becoming stronger was paid for with my own life. I thought about the cleaners the system had mentioned earlier. I thought about the Tianshu society Lu Matsi spoke of before he died. I thought about that creepy girl and her "it's my turn" comment. This world was far more dangerous than I had imagined, and I was already drowning in it. But what did 10 years of my life actually buy me? I opened the fusion details. I could merge basic detoxification with basic poison manufacturing. Success rate, 67%. Possible outcomes included poison resistance or toxin mastery. I hesitated. If I failed, I might not even live to see 30. But if I didn't try, I'd always be a low-level bottom feeder. There were too many system holders in this world, and plenty of them were monsters. I had to get stronger, fast. I gritted my teeth and reached for the confirm fusion button. The system chimed again. Warning, 33% chance of failure. Continue. My thumb hovered over the button, trembling. I couldn't bring myself to press it. Just then, the piercing wail of police sirens cut through the air outside. I heard footsteps, lots of them, sprinting toward the warehouse. The sirens grew louder. The footsteps were frantic and heavy. I snapped my head up, my finger jerking away from the screen. I ran to the window and peeled back a corner of the rotting cloth covering it. 3 black police cars were skidding to a halt outside. A dozen fully armed officers were already fanning out to surround the building. Damn it, I cursed under my breath. I scanned the warehouse. There was only one main entrance. The second floor was nothing but rusted pipes and open catwalks, There was nowhere to hide. The system interface was still flashing that 33% failure warning. If I fused now, I'd be a sitting duck while the process finished. But if I didn't have enough power to even generate a basic energy ripple, let alone fight my way out of a police blockade. I bit my lip and swiped the air. Cancel fusion. The warning vanished. I dove into my inventory. The disguise technique, manual I'd looted from Lou Motzi, was sitting in the corner. It was an A-grade skill that had taken him 10 years to grind for. He died before he could even master it. Now it was mine. Learn disguise technique, A-grade. Obviously, I muttered, hitting confirm. A freezing current erupted from my core and surged through my limbs. I could feel my bones shifting, my muscles contracting, and my facial features twisting. It was a gruesome, visceral sensation, like invisible hands were kneading my face like clay. Seconds later, I caught my reflection in a shard of broken glass. I saw a stranger. A man in his 30s with a square jaw and a jagged scar near his mouth. I looked nothing like Zhang Mingyuan. Good enough. I adjusted my collar, stayed low, and crawled toward a dust ventilation duct near the back. It was less than half a meter wide, but I squeezed in like an eel. Just as I vanished into the pipe, the warehouse doors were kicked open. Search everything. Leave no corner unchecked, a commander barked. I held my breath, pressing myself against the cold metal as I crawled. I moved slowly, making sure not to let my belt buckle clink against the tin. The smell of rust was overwhelming, but I didn't dare cough. Boss, blood and footprints over here. They go toward the second floor. Move. After him. I heard the heavy boots thundering up the stairs. A cold smile played on my new lips. I sped up, reached the end of the duct, and dropped into a pile of trash in the back alley. I didn't look back. I ducked into a nearby residential complex, weaving through the shadows until I was gone. Half an hour later, I was sitting in the corner of a 24-hour fast food joint. A cold cola sat untouched in front of me. The place was mostly empty, just a guy playing mobile games and another watching a drama on a laptop. Nobody noticed the scarred man in the corner. The system chimed. New mission. Tianqi Society has issued your second task. Objective: infiltrate Tianqi Biotech Company and steal gene sample number 07. Time limit: 72 hours. Reward: 1,000 points plus 1 designated skill upgrade voucher. Note: Tianqi has an S-class security system. High-level stealth recommended. 1,000 points. My eyes narrowed. The points I'd stolen from Lou Motzi were a pittance, not even enough for a basic C-grade technique. 1,000 points meant I could buy a full B-grade manual or a high-level defensive item. And that upgrade voucher? That was priceless. The temptation was massive, but I didn't accept immediately. I stared at the name, Tianqi Biotech, for a long time, tapping my fingers rhythmically on the table. Tianqi Society. Tianqi Biotech. The names were too similar. I pulled out my phone and searched for the company. My breath hitched. The company looked boring on paper, just a small firm focused on gene drug research. But then I saw the detail that mattered. Their headquarters was located in an industrial park right on the outskirts of this very city. Right next to that industrial park sat an abandoned biological research institute. An old, forgotten lab paired with a newly registered biotech firm. Interesting. I finished my cola and stood up. A 72-hour window was more than enough time to scout the place out. My disguise technique still had 5 hours left. If I moved now, I could sneak in and see the truth for myself. It was better than sitting around waiting for a trap to spring. By 2 a.m., the industrial park's main gates were locked tight. I didn't plan on using the front door. I shifted my appearance to look like one of the site security guards and scaled the perimeter wall. Keeping low, I crept through the greenery until I reached the back of the Tianqi Biotech main building. It was a 6-story structure. Most of the windows were glowing with light. Through the first-floor conference room glass, I spotted several figures in white lab coats. They were locked in a heated argument. I stayed low and slipped into the second floor through a fire exit. The hallway reeked of disinfectant mixed with a strange, cloying sweetness. I pressed my back against the wall, moving past one closed lab door after another. Through the observation windows, I saw rows of test tubes and high-end equipment. Then, I pushed open a door labeled Biological Sample Bank. What I saw inside made me freeze. In the center of the room stood a dozen transparent cylindrical containers. Each one held a human organ floating in preservative fluid. Hearts, livers, kidneys. There were even intact eyeballs staring back at me. Bubbles rose from the bottom of the tanks, making the outlines of the organs shimmer with a ghostly clarity. But deeper in the room, the shelves held things that were even more horrific. I saw test tubes containing severed infant limbs and rows of human embryos. These experiments, I whispered to myself, they're using living people. My eyes caught a document sitting in the corner of a desk. A familiar logo was stamped on the cover, the emblem of the Tianshu Society. A key resting on a pair of scales. The sponsor was the Tianshu Society. Blood rushed to my head. I grabbed the file and flipped to the first page. A single line of text stared back at me. Project number 07, Gene Fusion Experiment. Objective, to screen the most suitable physical vessels for the children of destiny. The recent results section was even worse. 3 primary vessels successfully deployed to the trial grounds. Expected to reach maturity in 3 months. 3 vessels, sent to the trial grounds. My mind flashed back to the system notification I'd seen before, Child of Destiny Selection Plan. I realized a terrifying truth. This mission wasn't about collecting a sample. It was about baiting me here. I whirled around. The electronic lock on the door clicked shut. I was trapped. The lab's emergency lights flickered with a pale, sickly glow. My fingertips went cold as I stared at the words on the screen nearby. 3 vessels already in the trial grounds. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. The door was locked, but no alarms were sounding. That meant they didn't want to cause a scene. They just wanted me to stay here, forever. I turned and scanned the room. On my left, a bioanalyzer was still humming. A complex genetic map danced across the screen. I stepped over and began tapping on the keyboard. The database had no password. Either they were sloppy, or they simply didn't care if I saw what was inside. A folder popped up, Luck Harvest Plan, Final Version. I hesitated for a second, then clicked. The first line made my pupils shrink. The essence of the system lottery. Every time a child of destiny draws a prize, they extract energy from the world luck pool. The higher the grade, the more luck is consumed. Current world luck pool, 63.7%. Warning threshold, 60%. Asterisk. My breath hitched. I thought about my recent spree, the disguise technique, the A-grade spatial ring. Every time I gained power, the system gave me those small warnings. Someone lost their job because of your draw. Someone had a car accident. Someone suffered a heart attack. I thought those were just random side effects. A small price to pay. I scrolled down. Each line felt like a knife in my chest. Experiment 477, A-grade draw. Consumed 0.003% world luck. Side effect, power grid failure in City X, 137 people injured by electrocution. Experiment 672, fusion of extreme ability. Consumed 0.12% world luck. Side effect, total crop failure in 3 small nations. Estimated deaths, 120,000. 120,000 people. My hands started to shake. I finally understood why the system gave me those minor warnings. It wasn't because the cost was small. It was because the cost was so massive the system didn't dare tell me the truth. At the bottom of the document was a massive data model labeled Luck Harvester, Dimensional Summoning Plan. The Tianshu Society's core goal was simple. Use the system holders to drain the world's luck. Once the pool dropped below 10%, a dimensional tunnel would open, and a great being would descend. The model showed a blurred, massive entity that took up 2/3 of the screen. It was an indescribable mass of twisted faces and tentacles. The pressure coming off the image alone was suffocating. The lab was freezing, but my back was soaked in cold sweat. I wasn't here to pull a heist. I was the key. The Tianshu Society never intended for me to survive. They just needed a child of destiny who was greedy and stupid enough to keep draining the world's life for them. And I had played the part perfectly. Every time I pressed that draw button, I thought I was getting stronger. In reality, I was just pushing the world closer to the edge. A new message popped up from the system. Asterisk detected abnormal emotional fluctuations in host. Would you like to open the Truth Q&A function? Note, this function will consume 1% of the remaining world luck. Asterisk. I looked at the text and laughed. It was a hollow, desperate sound. I knew why the system was offering this now. The system itself was a tool of the society. Every single function was designed to kill this world. I didn't click confirm. Instead, I walked to the far wall of the lab. I had noticed some small writing engraved there during my initial scan. Tinshu Society, Trial Ground Number 7. Subject 007. Everything has a price. Destiny can be hijacked. The harvester has arrived. The sacrifice is in place. I stared at those words. I realized something else. Those 3 vessels I read about earlier weren't just records. They were a countdown. In 3 months, those vessels would be ready. The society would have 3 more children of destiny, just like me, maybe even stronger. I was just the first lamb to the slaughter. Click. The electronic lock on the door suddenly released. I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs. Someone was coming in. The laboratory doors slid open with a heavy, mechanical hum. A middle-aged man in a white lab coat stood in the corridor, a twisted smile stretching across his face. He adjusted his glasses with a calm, clinical indifference. "Mr. Zung," he said, his voice as casual as if he were discussing the weather. "Welcome to the real game." I recognized him immediately. He was the supervisor of the 7th branch of the Tinshu Society. His code name was the Harvester. "You're 3 days earlier than we expected," he noted. I clenched my fists. I felt the energy of my A-grade disguise technique pulsing through my veins, ready to strike. But I didn't move. I knew if he was bold enough to open that door, he was prepared for anything I could throw at him. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice cold. The harvester smiled and pulled a palm-sized device from his pocket. It was fitted with a needle that glowed with a faint, eerie blue light. "It's simple. We want you to keep drawing," he said, pointing to the device. "This is the latest chi stimulator. Once injected, it will increase your drawing frequency tenfold." He paused, his smile widening. "Of course, there's a price. It will drain the final 10% of this world's luck in a very short amount of time." My heart sank. I knew he wasn't lying. I only had 3 months left. If I couldn't find a way to break this cycle, the entire world would be destroyed because of my greed. The harvester watched my expression and nodded with satisfaction. "I see you understand. Now, make your choice. Continue being our child of destiny so we can finish the final step, or..." He gestured toward a massive iron door further down the hall. "Go in there. See the faces of those who died because of your luck." My pupils contracted. I didn't back down. I took a step forward and walked toward the iron door. The heavy door slammed shut behind me. The echo rang through the empty corridor like a death knell. I didn't look back. My footsteps were light, but each one felt like it was crushing my own heart. I chose the second path. I wasn't going there to mourn the dead. I was going there for answers. At the end of the hallway, the path branched. To the left was a small, brightly lit room. To the right was nothing but deep, suffocating darkness. I started to turn left, but a movement in the shadows caught my eye. A familiar figure stepped out. It was Chen Feng. He was a low-level member of the society who had joined around the same time I did. He was a sycophant, always sucking up to the higher-ups, a coward by nature. He looked flustered when he saw me. Ming Yuan." Chen Feng's voice trembled. "What are you doing here?" "I just saw Lord Harvester. He didn't hurt you, did he?" I stared into his eyes. I saw fear, but there was something else hidden beneath it. "Chen Feng," I whispered, grabbing his arm. "I found out the society's secret. They're using us to drain the world's life force." "Shoo," Chen Feng hissed, dragging me into a dark corner. "Brother, don't say that. You'll get us killed." "I'm not joking," I said firmly. "Listen to me. Every time we draw a skill, the world loses its luck. In 3 months, the vessels will be ready, and this world is finished." Chen Feng's eyes went wide. His lips quivered. How do you know?" "I saw the files," I said, gripping his shoulders. "We can fight back, Chen Feng. We don't have to be their pawns." Chen Feng lowered his head. His body was shaking violently. Then he looked up. His eyes were bloodshot, but his voice was suddenly clear. "I'm sorry." I froze. Before I could react, Chen Feng shoved me away and bolted down the corridor. "Lord Harvester," he screamed, his voice shattering the silence. "Zung Mingyuan is a traitor. He's planning to rebel against the society. My mind went blank. A second later, a chill crawled up my spine. It wasn't anger. It was the cold, hollow despair of betrayal. I turned to run, but it was too late. Heavy footsteps thundered from the darkness. A dozen figures emerged, wearing black uniforms with golden spiral emblems. Each held a weapon glowing with that same blue light. The society's enforcement squad. The harvester stepped through the ranks. He didn't look angry. He looked disappointed. Ming Yuan, I gave you a choice, he sighed. You chose to share your secret with a piece of trash like this. How tragic. He raised his hand. I tried to trigger my system, to summon my abilities, but the interface flickered and blurred. A massive pressure pushed down on me from all sides. The very space around me was rejecting me. This was a suppression field. A bolt of blue light shot from the harvester's hand. It tore through my chest. Pain flooded my senses like a tidal wave. My legs gave out. I collapsed to one knee, blood pooling on the cold floor. My vision began to fade into black. Take him away. The harvester's voice drifted from a distance. Subject B1476 is a failure. Dispose of him tomorrow. The world went quiet. I could only hear my own heartbeat. Thump, thump, thump. It was slowing down. Just as my consciousness was about to slip into the void, a cold system prompt exploded in my mind. Host in critical condition. Emergency draw procedure activated. Death reverse authority initiated. Drawing. Success. Congratulations. You have obtained a rare skill, time traceback. Effect, rewind time by 3 minutes. Use now? My spirit jolted. With the very last of my strength, I screamed the command in my mind. Use it. The world flipped upside down. The darkness receded, and light rushed back in. The agonizing pain in my chest vanished. The pressure disappeared. I snapped my eyes open. I was standing at the fork in the corridor. I was alone. I felt my chest. No hole, no blood. My clothes were perfect. On my system panel, the time traceback skill was grayed out. Cooldown, 48 hours. I took a deep breath. Then I heard it. Footsteps. Chen Feng stepped out from the corner, that same fake, flattering smile on his face. Brother Ming Yuan, you. Before he could finish, I lunged. I grabbed him by the throat and slammed him against the wall. Ack, brother, what are you? Shut up. My eyes were like ice. Chen Feng, I know you're going to snitch. I'm giving you 5 seconds to decide. Do you want to die now, or do you want to do something for me before you go? Chen Feng's face turned purple. He tried to struggle, but my grip was like iron. He saw the truth in my eyes. I wasn't a tool anymore. I let go just enough for him to slide to the floor, gasping for air. Who sent you? I asked quietly. It was Lord Harvester, he wheezed, trembling with terror. He told me to watch you. He said if you showed any sign of betrayal, I had to report it immediately. And did you? I didn't have time, he stammered. I just stepped out, and you caught me. I let out a cold laugh. The time traceback had only rewound 3 minutes. In that tiny window, Chen Feng hadn't had the chance to snitch yet, but I knew his mind. I knew he had already replayed my betrayal 1,000 times in his head. Brother Ming Yuan. Chen Feng suddenly dropped to his knees, his voice trembling. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. The harvester forced me. He said if I didn't watch you, he'd kill my entire family. I had no choice. I didn't say a word. I just stood there, looking down at him. His acting was pathetic. The fear was real, but the pleas for mercy were laced with calculation. He was testing me. He wanted to see if I was soft enough to let him live. Get up, I said. Chen Feng blinked, stunned, then scrambled to his feet. Take me to the harvester, I commanded. What? But, you just said you were going to find him yourself. My eyes turned cold. Are you trying to back out now? Chen Feng waved his hands frantically. No. I'll go. I'll take you right now. He turned around to lead the way, but in that split second, his right hand blurred toward his waist. He drew a dagger in a reverse grip, spinning back to gut me. My pupils shrank. I didn't hesitate. I lunged forward and buried my boot into the small of his back. Thud! Chen Feng smashed into the wall face first. The dagger clattered across the floor. I knew it. I muttered, walking toward him. People like you never learn. I picked up the dagger. The blade caught the dim light, cold and sharp. I stepped over to him, my expression blank. I gave you a chance, Chen Feng. His face was ghostly white. Brother Ming Yuan, please don't kill me. I really. Shoo. I pressed the tip of the blade against his throat. You said the harvester forced you. You were right about one thing. People like you only listen to the strongest person in the room. I leaned in, my voice dropping to a whisper. But you forgot. I can make you listen to me, too. I flicked my wrist. Chun Feng's eyes widened to the size of saucers. A spray of hot blood hit the floor, and his body went limp, sliding down the wall like a discarded rag. I let go of the handle and watched him fall. I felt no pity, no hesitation. I knew I had changed. In this world, the strong don't always survive, but the soft-hearted always die first. I turned to leave, but suddenly my chest burned. A blood-red warning box flashed violently in front of my eyes. Warning, kill value exceeded. Current kill value, October 10th. Limit reached. System's self-destruct sequence initiated, 24 hours. I froze. Self-destruct? I frantically swiped through the system interface. A new tab had appeared at the bottom in jagged, distorted red text, the kill value system. I tapped it, and the rules scrolled down. Asterisk rule supplement. Killing other children of destiny or system holders is strictly prohibited. Each kill accumulates 1 point. At 10 points, the self-destruct sequence begins, and the host will be erased. Asterisk. Asterisk methods to reduce kill value asterisk. Asterisk 1. Complete liquidation tasks. Reduces 1 point per task. Asterisk. Asterisk 2. Kill a higher-level child of destiny. Reduces 2 points. Asterisk. Asterisk 3. Use the special item, Destiny Evolution Suit. Clears value instantly. Asterisk. I stared at the screen, my heart hammering. The system was restricting my ability to kill. Or rather, it was stopping me from killing indiscriminately. I see. I whispered, a bitter smile forming on my lips. So that's why the harvester wanted me to be obedient. It wasn't mercy. It was because killing me would be useless to him. He needed to complete tasks to lower his own kill value, and those tasks were likely issued by the organization itself. I closed the menu and looked at the body on the floor. Chen Feng was the first person I had ever killed. He wouldn't be the last. I had to survive. I had to finish a task. Otherwise, in 24 hours, I'd be just as cold as he was. System, issue a task, I commanded quietly. Target, destroy a Tianshu Society contact point and kill 1 contact person. Reward, kill value -1, destiny points +50. Time limit, 12 hours. Failure penalty, kill value +2. My brow furrowed. Destroy a contact point? Kill more people? The system was already at the limit. If I killed again, I'd just be accelerating my death. No, I needed a different way. I opened the system mall and searched for the Destiny Evolution Suit. The price made my blood run cold. 1,000 destiny points. I only had 23. It was a death trap. The system was forcing me to kill, punishing me for it, and then demanding more blood to fix the punishment. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. I needed to clear that value. If I could just finish 1 task, I'd have a buffer. But the liquidation tasks were too risky. I scrolled through the task list again. Most were grayed out, locked behind level requirements, but one caught my eye. It was highlighted in gold. Newbie system task, save a life. Requirement, use your abilities to save a person on the brink of death within 24 hours. Reward, kill value -10, reset to 0, destiny points +20. Penalty, kill value +5. My eyes nearly popped out of my head. Reset to 0? If I did this, the self-destruct sequence would stop instantly. I wouldn't have to touch the liquidation tasks at all. It felt like a trap. The system had been pushing me toward slaughter this whole time. Why would it suddenly ask me to be a savior? I read the description 3 times. There was no hidden catch. The logic was clear. The liquidation task required me to fight the Tianshu Society, risk my life, and only get a tiny reduction. This task offered a full reset for saving 1 person. I made my choice. I walked out into the night and pulled up a map on my phone. There was a city hospital 3 kilometers away. I hailed a taxi. As I sat in the back, I closed my eyes, focusing on my skill list. Life restoration. I remembered that skill. I hadn't thought much of it when I pulled it from the system, but now it was my lifeline. It cost 5 points per use. With 23 points in the bank, I had enough for 4 tries. When the taxi pulled up to the emergency entrance, the smell of disinfectant hit me like a wall. The hallways were chaotic, people screaming, doctors rushing, the sound of gurneys clicking on the floor. I scanned the room and locked onto the resuscitation area. The red light was glowing. A nurse ran out, looking frantic. Patient is in heart failure. Blood pressure is bottoming out. Where are the relatives? A middle-aged woman collapsed against the wall, wailing. My husband. Please, save him. I watched the doors, my mind racing. Heart failure. Near death. He fit the criteria perfectly. But how was I supposed to get in there? If I just burst in and started using powers, I'd be tackled by security or arrested. I needed to get close to that bed, and I needed to do it now. Just then, a doctor stepped out, slowly shaking his head. The situation is not looking good. We've done everything we can, the doctor said, his voice heavy. Tell the family to prepare for the worst. Wait, I said, stepping forward. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a business card. It was an old one from my days as a sales rep for a medical tech company. I held it out with a steady hand. I'm Lin Yuan. I lied, my voice calm and professional. My company has a new drug currently in clinical trials. It's specifically designed for acute heart failure. If the family agrees, I can try to save him. The doctor froze, looking at the card and then at me. What drug? Is it approved? Do you have the trial permits? The permits exist, but the paperwork is still being processed, I said, not blinking. But here's the reality. By the time the paperwork clears, this man will be dead. Before the doctor could argue, the middle-aged woman lunged forward. She grabbed my arm, her grip tight and desperate. Please, save my husband. I don't care what drug it is, just save him. The doctor frowned. This is against regulations. Can regulations bring a man back to life? I interrupted. You've already admitted you're powerless here. Why not let me try? At least he'll have a fighting chance. Suddenly, the red light above the resuscitation room flickered off. Another doctor pushed the doors open, his expression grim. The patient's heart has stopped. Prepare the defibrillator. I didn't waste another second. I shoved past the staff and bolted into the room. What are you doing? A nurse shouted, trying to block me. Saving a life. I barked, pushing her aside. I reached the bedside in 3 strides. The man lying there was turning a sickly shade of purple. The EKG monitor was a flat, terrifying line. The other doctor reached for the paddles, but I shoved him back. Get out of my way, the doctor roared. This is a trauma room. I ignored him. I placed my palm firmly against the patient's cold chest. Asterisk use life restoration? Cost, 5 points. Confirm. A surge of warmth erupted from my palm, flowing directly into the man's body. The EKG monitor gave a sudden, violent jump. Then, a rhythmic beep started. The numbers on the monitor began to climb. This is impossible, the doctor stammered, his eyes wide with shock. Within seconds, the man's skin regained a healthy color. His chest began to rise and fall with steady, deep breaths. He was stable. I pulled my hand back and stepped away. A system notification popped up in my vision. Life saved. Killing intent reduced by 10. Current, 43. Warning, improper use of abilities will accelerate the consumption of luck. That last line made my stomach drop. Consumption of luck? I tapped the notification for more details. A small line of text appeared. Using abilities on non-mission targets consumes world luck. Current world luck, 99.8%. For every 1% consumed, the system danger level increases by 1. So, there was a price for playing God. Saving one person had cost 0.2% of the world's luck. I had saved a life, but the negative side effects were already piling up. The doctors and nurses swarmed around me, shouting questions about the drug I had used. I didn't answer. I turned and walked out of the hospital, needing air to process this. As I reached the end of the hallway, the system pinged again. Alert! Abnormal luck fluctuations detected. Warning! Another system holder has entered the area. Distance, 800 meters. Conceal yourself. I stopped in my tracks. A cold smile played on my lips. Interesting. It seemed I wasn't the only one in this world with a gift. And whoever this person was, they were likely here for the same reason I was, to save a life or to take one. I stepped out of the hospital into the yellow glow of the streetlights. The night was quiet, but my mind was racing. 800 meters. That was too close. If this person was an enemy, I barely had room to run. Can you determine their objective? I whispered, unable to determine. Detection is limited to tracking luck fluctuations. I hardened my gaze. I had to assume the worst. But as I prepared to leave, my system interface began to flicker violently. A red light swept across my vision, and the panel shattered like glass before reforming with strange, new text. First life intervention detected. Luck system unlocked. Warning, this function involves the fundamental laws of the world. View with caution. Asterisk luck system? What the hell was that? A brand new panel floated in front of me. At the top, 2 words stood out. Luck. Host personal luck, 78 out of 100. Total world luck, 564.2 billion. 78? My heart sank. I remembered my life before the system. I had always been lucky, passing exams I didn't study for, landing good jobs, things just working out. Now, this number was telling me that nearly a quarter of my luck was already gone. Luck represents the host's reserve within the river of fate, the system explained. Every lottery draw and ability used consumes luck. When luck hits 0, the host will be erased by the laws of the world. My fingers trembled. I thought about the man I just saved. I thought I was getting a bargain by using points. Now I realized I was just overdrawing a bank account I couldn't refill. Why wasn't I told that draws cost luck? I demanded. Before the luck system was unlocked, the system could only display point costs. Asterisk points are merely a surface metric. Luck is the true currency. Asterisk. Total draws, 7. Total luck consumed by saving 1 life, 12 points. My head spun. 1 life cost 12 points of luck. If I got into a fight and had to use my powers again, how much would be left? I was on a countdown to my own disappearance. And the world luck? I asked. Initial world luck, 10,000. This was the baseline before the Tianshu Society was established. Current value, 5,642. Consumed, 4,358. System analysis shows this consumption is highly concentrated in the skill usage of core Tianshu Society members. I felt a chill run down my spine. The Tianshu Society is draining the world's luck. Yes, they have high-level permissions. Every time they interfere with reality on a large scale, they strip the world of its luck. At the current rate, the world will collapse in approximately 3 years when the value hits 0. I finally understood. The Tianshu Society wasn't just ruling the world, they were cannibalizing it. They were trading the world's future for their own power and immortality, leaving nothing but a husk for everyone else. Do they know? I asked. Core members likely know. Low-level agents do not. I let out a cold laugh. Of course. The people at the top never tell the pawns the truth. I looked at my stats again. Personal, 78. World, 5,642. I was standing on the edge of a cliff, and the ground was crumbling. Is there a way to recover luck? 2 ways. 1. Complete redemption missions. Each recovers 1 to 5 points. 2. Hunt other system holders and seize their luck. Note, the second method will trigger the Tianshu Society's hunter system. Use with caution. Kill others to survive. It was a farm. The Tianshu Society had set this up so we would eventually turn on each other, or be drained dry. Fine, I whispered, walking into the shadows. No more hesitation. I didn't care about justice or rebellion anymore. I just had 78 points left, and I wasn't ready to spend them all yet. As I walked, the system flashed again. Asterisk warning, target system holder is moving closer. Distance, 600 meters. Speed, 5 meters per second, asterisk. I stopped and turned back toward the hospital. Through the darkness, a silhouette was approaching. I couldn't see their face, but their stride was steady and purposeful. They were coming straight for me. They had found me much faster than I expected. I didn't run. Instead, I leaned against a cold lamppost, hands deep in my pockets, and waited. A few seconds later, a figure emerged from the shadows and stopped 5 meters away. He was a young man, maybe in his early 20s, wearing a black hoodie with the brim pulled low. Our eyes met, and my system immediately flashed two notifications. Target system holder, Lin Luo. Level, Destiny Intervener. Current luck value, 92%. My pupils constricted. 92%. That was 14 points higher than mine. Not only that, his system level was far beyond my own. Zheng Mingyuan, he said, his voice low and gravelly. It really is you. My heart skipped a beat. He knew my name. My hand instinctively drifted toward the dagger hidden at my waist. At this distance, I could end the fight in 3 seconds. But his next words made my entire body stiffen. You were chosen by the Tianshu Society too, weren't you? Lin Luo pulled back his hood, revealing a young face and bloodshot eyes. Relax. I'm not here to kill you. I didn't lower my guard. How do you know my name? Because the Tianshu Society told me, Lin Luo said with a bitter smile. They sent me here to take you out. We stared at each other for a long moment. My mind raced. With his luck at 92 and a superior system level, I wasn't sure I could win a direct confrontation. If you're here to kill me, why haven't you moved? I asked. Because I checked your background. Lin Luo leaned against a wall and lit a cigarette. 3 months ago, you were just a regular office worker. Then your system awakened. In these last 3 months, you haven't caused anyone's death. Your system hasn't even triggered a hunting signal. I frowned. You've been watching me? The Tianshu Society is watching all of us, he said, exhaling a cloud of smoke. I just have access to their data. A weight settled in my stomach. If they were monitoring every holder, then they knew exactly how much luck I had burned through with my extractions. What are you getting at? I demanded. I want to live. Lin Luo crushed his cigarette, his gaze turning sharp. You've noticed it, right? Every time you use the system, it consumes the world's luck. The society told me it's just a normal cost of getting stronger. They told me to keep going, but I don't believe them. My heart rate spiked. What did you find? The Tianshu Society has existed for 30 years. Their founder is someone called the Sage, but no one has ever seen his face, Lin Luo whispered. For 3 decades, they've been screening system holders across the globe. Do you know what their criteria is? I shook my head. Luck value, Lin Luo said. The higher your luck, the more likely you are to be chosen. Finding a system drains the world, and people with high luck can withstand the initial drain better. They aren't trying to build an army of elites, Zheng Mingyuan. He let out a cold, mocking laugh. They're raising livestock. They want us to keep drawing powers, keep burning the world's luck. Once that value hits 0, the sage will descend and harvest everything. My palms grew sweaty. The system had shown me the numbers. Over 4,000 points of the world's luck were already gone. At this rate, the world only had a few months left. Why tell me this? I asked, staring him down. You have 92 points. You could keep playing their game. Why risk this? Because I used to have 99, Lin Luo said, his eyes darkening. I lost 7 points in 6 months. If I keep going, I'll be dead by next year. Silence fell between us. Do you have a way to stop them? I asked. No, Lin Luo admitted. But I found a lead. The society has an underground base on the west side of the city. It holds the data archives for every holder. If we get those files, we might figure out what the sage is actually planning. You want me to go with you? Yes. Lin Luo held out his hand. Your system level is low, but you're smart. You've gone 3 months without a single hunting trigger. That kind of self-control is rare. I hesitated for 3 seconds, then I shook his hand. When? Tonight, Lin Luo said, checking his watch. 3 a.m. The guards rotate then. We'll have a 15-minute window. Where exactly? An abandoned chemical plant. Basement level 3. I nodded. I'll be there. Lin Luo turned to leave, but then paused. One more thing. About your system. Don't use the redemption missions lightly. Why not?